Hi, welcome to Chapter 12 and Chapter 13. We're going to focus mainly on Chapter 13, but this is going to be a lot of review because we've covered probably most all of this, except for a few pieces, in CIS222. So this is basically a lot of review here today. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a three-column layout. We're going to be using float and some other things. We're going to introduce a couple of new tags. So this is the HTML that we're going to be using today. We're going to add some text in here, and we're going to be modifying some of the CSS. So right now we're using styles.css, which is pretty much a standard within this book. So first thing it says is we're going to open up the index file, and we're going to basically go to the first sidebar. Goes here, and it wants us to add this particular line right here. So this is the A-side tag. This is brand new to HTML5. It really is not that much different than a div tag. I think the best explanation is, let me go ahead and add it first. The best explanation is what the W3 school basically says. It says the A-side tag defines some content aside from the content it's placed in. So think of it as kind of a little brother to a div tag. So if you had some information up here and you kind of want to take some information and kind of make it a sub information, you could do that. Now, but be aware, it says right here that you're using HTML5, a side tag, but you could just as easily use a div tag to create this column. So the side tag really doesn't give us much. What it lets us know though is this is kind of a sub of another basically area that we're dealing with. So it's not that big of a deal, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, so we're then going to go into this sidebar 1 text, and we are going to copy and paste that into this right here, and then I'm going to put an ending A-side tag. Okay, so again, A-side is just like a div tag. It works just like a div tag. Remember, span is more or less for one item. Div tags are for multiple. So I save that, and we take a look at it. And this is what we have. So we basically have our header across the top, and this is where it begins. We got sidebar 1, secondary header, and that's it. Okay, so nothing so far. So let's go into place the cursor into a line after the HTML comment. Main comment goes here, and we're going to add this article class main. Okay, so we have an article tag. Now what is that? Again, brand new to HTML5, and I think the W3 Schools explains it best when they say the article tag specifies independent self-contained content. An article should make sense on its own and should be possible to distribute it independently from the rest of the site. So an aside is, again, kind of a sub part of another part, where an article is a part by itself. Okay, so we're going to then copy in the main text, and we're going to place that right after the article, and I'm also going to put an ending article tag right here. Now when I save it and we take a look, it's probably going to look pretty strange. Yeah. Now notice we've got sidebar 1 and article title, and it looks like it's just going in line. Now one thing we haven't done yet, we haven't done anything to the CSS. So now we got to go into the CSS and make that work in separate columns. Okay, so this is what we want to do. Is we're going to open up we already have it open, the style.css, and the very first thing we want to do is we're going to add a .sidebar1. Okay, let me copy that, and we are going to add that to the very bottom. So it basically says float left and has a width of 20%. Now, do we have a sidebar 1 anywhere in here? So let's take a look at our HTML code. And so sidebar 1 is basically right here. Oh, so the aside is our tag, like a div tag, and our class we're calling now is sidebar 1. I think if we look at it, it will look kind of weird because we haven't done anything with the main yet. So really it hasn't done anything yet because it said float left and the width is 20%. Well, it basically doesn't have anything to compare it against yet. So the next thing we are going to do is we're going to make the main and we are going to paste that at the very bottom, and it just says margin left 22%. Do we have our main in there yet? I don't think we have our main. So yeah, we don't have that main in there yet. So I don't see the main. Did we add the main somewhere? Did I? Yeah, because we haven't. Yeah, it's. Okay, I think I know what the problem is. Since I copied out of the book, these double quotes aren't working, and those, because that text right there should be purple. And so if I change that to a double quote and a double quote, yes, and then I think this is going to work. Double quote and double quote. And let me save it and then refresh. Yep, there we go. Okay. So that was kind of strange. Anyway, so we can see that this is floating, and if I were to add, let me go back to the book. So there's my main. So again, we're looking like that. Did I supposed to add the third one yet? Yeah, so if we added a third column, what you would see is this stuff would just wrap around because we've just told that one column to float left, and once everything kind of fills up around it, it will wrap right around. So that's basically what's going on here. Here's the subheading for the next article, and it comes down and boom, it just slips right on over. And it goes right around this. So we haven't really set up a column yet. Because we have not added the correct CSS for the other two columns, because that main right now is just text, and it's just going to float right around the other text. And we added the gap there. Notice how these are up against that text, but since we added that margin in there, we now have that gap. So we can see that gap right here. I don't know why this isn't coming over. What's it look like in Firefox? No, it's not coming over either, so that's weird. Okay, that could be because of the margin. Okay, what if I took that margin out? So if I take that out and do a refresh, yep. So that margin kind of helps set up the columns. So if I put that back, and save and refresh, then we can see, yep, it kind of starts helping set up the columns. Okay, so we got our sidebar 1, we've got our main. Our main has no floats or anything like that set up. So the next thing that we need to do is we're going to add another column. We're going to add this we're going to put another aside in there, so we're going to call this aside sidebar 2. But I'm not going to make the same mistake again. I'm going to change those to double quotes. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and add the ending sidebar, a sidebar. And I'm going to go into here, grab that text, copy it, and then paste it. Save it. Now, if I go and look at it right now, it's not going to look good because, again, it wraps around. That's what we're doing now. It just wraps around to the next whatever, because we're not using any kind of floats here. So we basically, the column 1, we said make sure it's 20% wide and it floats left. The main article basically says, hey, I'm going to keep going until I can basically wrap around unless we have a margin. The margin then basically keeps me separate. But sidebar 2 says, hey, I'm just going to basically appear at the first available position, which happens to be all the way on the left hand side. So here's what we need to do. We are going to add sidebar 2 float right, and it's also going to be 20% wide. So I come over here and I add. So float right, width 20%, save it. Let's take a look, see what it looks like. And where is it? It's gone. Okay. The reason it's gone is because the main article is taking the entire width of the thing. It's actually off the screen. We can't see it. So what we have to do now is we have to add float to the main, because the main it's just displaying. It displays because we've got float. We've got that sidebar 1. It's floating to the left, and the main just comes up to it. It has to respect the float. Then it's going to display, and whatever comes behind it doesn't care. And since that float says float right, it's floating right, but we can't see it. So we got to have this one say float left, and it's only going to be 60%. We got 20 and 20 and 60, which is 100%. So we copy that, we add it, and we save it. And again, now it's going to float left. That means it's going to float up against the other float. Okay, so here's our sidebar on the right. I'm sorry, on the left. And it's going to float up to it. Remember, it's got a margin, and then go on. So let's take a look, see what it looks like now when I refresh. Okay, now I see sidebar 2. Okay, now why is it doing that? Well, if we look, I have a width of 20, width of 20, width of 60, 100%, no big deal. But I got a margin left of 22. What does that mean? That means we now have 122%. We don't, all we can see is 100. So we got to deal with that 22%. So what do we need to do? Did something happen to the footer? Yeah, and the footer's gone too. The reason being is it's trapped inside of one of the floats. So we need to basically do this. We need to go into and add footer clear both. So what it says is the footer will clear out any floats and then display the footer. So I add that to here. I do a save. We then take a look at it, and the footer's back. Okay, so anytime we have floats going on and we want something like a footer to take up the entire width of the bottom of the page, we got to clear those out. Again, this is still review from 120, so there should be nothing new to us right now. So we got to add some breathing room. So I'm going to add some padding to each one of these guys. We're supposed to leave that 20% margin in there? It's not quite matching up the way it's supposed to, but well, let's just keep going. Okay, so it wants us to add this padding to each one of these sections. So it's a padding of 0, 20 pixels, 0, 10 pixels. So top, right, bottom, left. So no padding on the top, 20 pixels on the right, nothing on the bottom, 10 pixels on the left. Okay, so this is 20 and 10, and that one is 10 and 20, the other one's 20. Okay, so I'm going to just add it 3 times. Oh, damn it. That's not what I wanted to do. I forgot to copy it. I need to add it here. Okay, so sidebar 1, add it. Main. I'm going to go ahead and take that main. I took that main 22% out, and I think this is how it should look right now. We got sidebar 1, main, sidebar 2. Okay, so I think we're good. So we need to add the padding. We need to give it some spacing. So that's when we are again going to put that padding in, put that padding in, and put that padding in. And this one is 10 and 20, and the main is 20 and 20. Okay. Again, remember, padding is on the inside, margins are on the outside. This is going to be the inside of that particular column. So I save it. I do a refresh. Yep. And looks like we got pushed down again. So let's see what's going on there. So if you have the style preview index, you'll notice a problem, the dreaded float drops. That's basically what we just hacked. So by adding the padding, you've essentially increased the width of each column by, so here's what we did. So let's take a look. So I increased the sidebar 1 by 20 and 10, which is 30. There's 20 and 20, which is 40, and 20 and 10, which is 30. Okay, so I need to add that down. So we need to take those into consideration before we actually allow them to come in. So let's take a look, see what we got to do. We're going to add an inner column, it looks like. So inside the sidebar 1, we're going to add this inner column. And that means we've got to close the div tag out at the bottom before the other one. And looks like those are double quotes are okay. And then we are going to add this inner column to our style sheet. And let's save it to see what happens. Still didn't give what we want. So we're going to add the following style to the top style sheet, just below the reset browser styles. Okay, so we're going to add this. Asterisk means all, and it's going to make the box sizing border box. So we add that. Let's see what that does for us. So that basically kind of says, hey, make sure we get everything boxed together in one big box. So this style takes advantage of the universal selector. It applies the box sizing property to every element on the page. By setting this property to border box, you're instructing the web browsers to use the size of the padding and border properties as part of CSS width value. In other words, the padding doesn't add to the CSS width. This prevents any float drop, since the columns now only add up to 100% without the padding. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add this to our main. We're going to add this border left and border right. Let me add them and then let's talk about it. So come out here to the main. So this border left, it's going to be dashed with 1 pixel. It's going to have RGB colors of 153, 153, 153, which is red, green, blue, whatever that happens to be, and then the same thing on the right. So only one border on the left, one border on the right, dashed. So let's take a look. And there's that dashed border. It says we're going to turn to our editor in the text, our index HTML, and after the opening of the body tag, we're going to add a new div tag called page wrapper. So let me copy that. So just inside the body, there is our page wrapper. And I believe it wants us to, and right before the body tag, the closing body tag, we are going to add a closing div tag. Okay, so do we have a page wrapper? Let's look at our CSS, and I do not see, I got 2 in there. I do not see a page wrapper. Do we have to add it? Yes, we do, yes. So now we're going to make this whole thing 960 pixels. And the great thing about using percents, it doesn't matter how wide this is going to be, each one's only going to take up a percentage of this 960. So I copy that. I come down here and I'm going to go ahead and add it to the top up here. So our page wrapper is now 960 pixels. And now when I come back over here and do a refresh, we should see some white space on both sides of our sheet now. Well, we see a lot of, well, we didn't center it. So that's why it basically starts on the left-hand side and goes over 960 pixels. I think if we put in here margin left auto and margin right auto, that centers it on the page. It basically says take and make each of those margins equal. Yep, so that's exactly what it did. Okay. They just did margin 0 auto. That's fine. That's the first one is top and bottom. The next one is left and right. Okay. So this page looks pretty good, but it might look better if the black background for the nav bar at the top, the footer at the bottom, and a dark purple gradient in the, okay. So inside of the delete the page wrapper we just created. What? I love my page wrapper. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. Save it. And it says in the style, we're going to basically add one more style. We're going to add nav UL header 1 and footer P. So, whoop. So, all my navs, any UL, any header, H1, footer, P, all those are going to have a max width of 1200 pixels. Again, the margin 0, top and bottom, auto, left and right. Save it. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, it looks like we're back to 100% wide. So now we're going to add, right before the first sidebar goes here, we're going to add this div class content wrapper. That was right before it, correct? Yeah. Class content wrapper. Save it. And then we're going to add right before the footer, we're going to put a closing div tag. So let me move this guy up since we got rid of it, right? Did we get rid of that guy? Yeah, we don't have this page wrapper anymore. So I'll just move that guy up, or move the footer down one. Okay, so if I did a refresh, nothing would happen because we don't have a content wrapper yet. So let's see what that's about. Oh, we got to add this content wrapper right here inside of that new tag we just added over here. So right before that guy. So save it. So now it's got the max width, the margins, and let's see what that does. Is this wider than 1200? I'm already at 1200. I shouldn't be. Let's see what it looks like in Firefox. Does it look any different? No. Huh. Let's make it 1000, see what happens. It's just affecting that guy up there. Nav, UL, header 1, footer P. So any ULs inside the nav will have that restriction. Any H1 inside the header will have that restriction. The footer P will have that. And the class content wrapper will have that as well. So why are we not seeing that? So class equals content wrapper. Is there an ending div tag? So, no, that's inner column. Let me get rid of this inner column. That's strange. What does the final look like? Yeah, it looks good. So let's class content wrapper. Ending div. Oh, it's right before the body. Is that where I have mine? Oh, let me move it down there. Huh, that is strange. I bet there's one little thing off. You know, I'm going to try something. I'm going to come over here, and again, this can mean make a lot of difference. I'm going to move this nav. We do basically all the ULs within the nav, the H1 in the headers, and the P in the footer, and then the content. I'm thinking there may be I may be missing a comma too. Let me look. Yep, I'm missing a comma after the P. That could have been the big difference there as well, because this content wrapper was basically being aligned to the footer. So I need to put a comma right there. I put it at the end. I can make a difference too. And let me come back over here and do a refresh, and voila, yes, looks good. Now, what is the difference between here and here? Oh, the footer needs to, because I moved that div tag below the footer. Let me move that back. Move the footer down one. Now the footer is outside of that. Let's see if that helps. No. Okay, so let's see what... I know how to fix it. I just want to see how they're going to do it. Div in front of the footer. That looks a lot wider in the center, doesn't it? Yeah, that is. That's a lot wider. What main is 60, 2020, 20, 2010, 20, 10, 10. Oh, because I changed it to, I know. Remember I changed it to 1,000. It needs to be 1,200. That'll fix it. Okay, but the footer's not, see that the footer's not part of the, So, that's got footer, div, body. Where does that div tag go to? That div tag. Oh, it closes before the footer. That's right. Okay, I see. I need to move this before the footer. and that will basically get rid of that. Boom, now we got a header going across. Okay, boom. I can't remember why is this guy got a ending div tag right here? It's got an ending div tag right there. What does he go to? I see div and no other divs. Okay, that's what threw me off. Okay, so as you can see, again, we were introduced to a couple of new things: the aside tag and the article tag. Those are basically new. Rest of it really should have been a lot of review. So again, if you have any questions, give me a call. Listen to me hem-haw around on this video again. Okay, we'll see you next time.